This podcast is created for those seeking a more fulfilling spiritual life. Teachings and lectures can often feel lengthy or complex, so these conversational episodes aim to present timeless wisdom in a relatable and accessible way, making it easier to connect and grow. Thank you and happy soul searching.
Hey everyone, welcome back for another deep dive. Today we're going to be looking at Michael Singer,
Oh, yeah.
specifically his ideas on letting go.
It's going to be good.
And I think this one's going to be really powerful for people because I think a lot of us struggle with
Absolutely.
holding on too tight to things.
Yeah, so much of his work really resonates, I think, with just about everyone.
Exactly.
It's so universal.
Yeah, so we've got a few excerpts of his talks
Mm-hmm.
that we're going to be diving into. And
Mm-hmm.
I think these really capture the essence of what he's trying to teach us.
Yeah. Are you ready to, stop fighting the universe and just kind of see what happens when you let go?
I think so, but I have a feeling it's going to be a lot harder than it sounds.
Oh, absolutely. It's
Yeah.
a practice. It's a constant thing. But that's what makes it so interesting, right?
Well, let's jump in.
Okay, so one of the things that Singer does really well is he kind of shakes us up right from the start.
Okay. How?
He makes us question, our whole perspective on life.
Oh, okay. I'm intrigued.
So he uses this analogy of life as being a guest.
Okay.
And he points out that, humans, we've only been around for a tiny fraction of the time that the universe has existed.
It's true. We're pretty new to the party.
Right, exactly. It's like showing up to this massive party that's been going on for billions of years and thinking you're the guest of honor.
And not only that, but the party doesn't even really need us. It would go
Yeah.
on just fine without us.
Exactly. And that's a really crucial point that Singer makes.
Yeah, he really emphasizes how vast and ancient the universe is and how we're just like this tiny little speck in it.
I mean, think about it. Light travels fast enough to circle the Earth 8 times in 1 second.
Wait, 8 times in 1 second?
Yeah, in 1 second.
That's mind-blowing.
Right.
And that's just to get to the nearest star.
Right, and it still takes light over 4 years to reach that star.
4 years.
4 years?
So if light takes 4 years to travel that distance, and it's moving at a speed that can circle the Earth 8 times in 1 second.
It just boggles the mind.
Yeah, it really puts things in perspective.
And so Singer's point is that this universe, this incredible, vast universe, it doesn't actually need us to function.
We're not as essential as we think we are.
Right. And, that can sound kind of depressing at first.
Yeah, I can see how someone might feel insignificant after hearing that.
But Singer argues that it's actually incredibly liberating.
Okay, I'm starting to see where you're going with this.
Once we grasp that we're not the center of the universe, it frees us from this illusion that we're in control of everything.
Ah, the illusion of control. I think that's something we all struggle with to some extent.
Oh, absolutely. We try to cling to things, to external forms like relationships, jobs, possessions, as if they can give us this sense of security.
But those things are always changing, aren't they?
Always changing, and when we cling to them, we set ourselves up for disappointment.
Because eventually those things will inevitably shift or disappear.
Exactly, and that's when the suffering kicks in.
So what's the alternative?
Well, Singer uses this really striking analogy. He talks about someone who's lying face down in 6 inches of water, and they're thrashing around yelling, "I'm drowning, I'm drowning."
That's a pretty vivid image.
Right, and it's kind of absurd when you think about it.
They're creating their own suffering by resisting the reality of the situation.
Exactly. They're in 6 inches of water, they could easily stand up and walk out.
But they're so caught up in the fear and panic.
That they're making it way worse than it needs to be.
I can definitely see how that applies to our own lives.
Oh, all the time. We resist what is, and that resistance just creates more turmoil.
So is Singer saying we should just give up then?
No, not at all. It's not about giving up. It's about surrender.
Okay, but what does that actually mean?
It's about recognizing that we're not in control of everything and accepting reality on reality's terms.
So it's more about letting go of the struggle.
Exactly, about finding peace in the midst of the chaos.
Okay, I'm starting to get it, but it still sounds pretty challenging.
It is. It's a practice, and
Uh-huh.
it takes time and effort, but the rewards are immeasurable.
Well, if letting go is the key, then how do we actually do that?
That's where Singer's insights into the nature of consciousness come in.
All right, let's dive into that.
He explains that our consciousness is constantly distracted by all these thoughts, emotions, external stimuli, and that this keeps us trapped in a cycle of reactivity.
Yeah, it's like we're so bombarded with information and stimulation that we rarely stop to just be present.
Right. He compares consciousness to a flashlight beam in a vast dark warehouse.
Okay, I like this analogy.
Whatever that beam falls on becomes our world in that moment. So if we're constantly shining it on our worries, anxieties, past hurts.
Then that's what we experience most strongly.
Exactly. It's like we're choosing to focus on the darkness instead of recognizing the vastness of the warehouse itself.
So if we can learn to shift that beam
Maybe we can start to see things a little differently.
and experience the world in a more expansive way.
Exactly. And that's where the real power of letting go lies. It's like we have this incredible power to choose what we focus on.
But how do we actually do that? How do we shift that flashlight beam when it feels like it's stuck on autopilot?
That's a great question, and it's not always easy, especially when we're in the middle of a stressful situation.
Right. It's one thing to understand this concept intellectually,
Mm.
but putting it into practice in the real world, that's a whole other challenge.
Exactly. And that's why Singer doesn't give us like a rigid set of steps or techniques.
So it's not about following a formula.
No, it's more about cultivating what he calls inner freedom.
Inner freedom. Okay, I'm curious. What does that look like?
It's about recognizing that we are not our thoughts or our emotions or even our experiences.
So if we're not those things, then what are we?
We are the awareness that's witnessing all of it.
Wow, that's a pretty profound concept.
It is, and honestly, I think it's something that each of us has to explore for ourselves.
So Singer gives us a framework for understanding, but the real work happens within.
Exactly. He's like pointing to a door and saying, hey, there's a whole universe in there. Go explore it.
And that exploration can be both challenging and incredibly rewarding.
Oh, absolutely. Because as we start to let go of those things, we've been clinging to the thoughts, the fears, the need for control.
We naturally tap into this source of energy and joy that was always there.
It's like we're clearing away all the clutter so that our true nature can shine through.
It reminds me of those yogis that Singer talks about, the ones who seem to radiate light and energy.
Yes, they've done the inner work, they've learned to let go, and now they're embodying that freedom.
But I think some people might hear this and think, okay, so I just need to let go and everything will be perfect.
Right, like life will suddenly become a fairy tale.
But that's not realistic, is it? Life throws us curveballs no matter what.
You're absolutely right. Singer isn't saying that we'll never experience challenges or difficulties.
We're going to face loss, heartbreak, disappointment. It's all part of the human experience.
Exactly, and that's where Singer's concept of surrender becomes so powerful.
So it's not about pretending everything is okay when it's not.
No, it's about learning to ride the waves of life without getting pulled under.
So how do we do that? How do we surrender when we're in the middle of a really tough situation?
Well, Singer talks about honoring and respecting the moment.
What does that mean?
It's about recognizing the inherent value of each experience, even the challenging ones.
Okay, so even when things are falling apart.
There's still something to be learned or gained from that experience.
But it's so easy to get caught up in the struggle to resist what's happening.
Especially when it comes to our thoughts and emotions.
Right. Like when we're going through a breakup or a job loss, it's natural to feel sad, angry, frustrated.
Absolutely. And Singer reminds us that most of our suffering comes from clinging to those thoughts and emotions as if they define who we are.
It's like we're shining that flashlight beam directly on our pain.
And making it even more intense.
So how do we loosen that grip? How do we stop identifying so strongly with those thoughts and emotions?
Well, the first step is simply noticing.
Noticing when we're clinging.
Exactly. That's where the power of awareness comes in.
So it's not about trying to force those thoughts and emotions to go away.
No, it's about recognizing that we don't have to be ruled by them.
We have a choice.
We always have a choice, and the more we practice this, the easier it becomes to create some space between ourselves and those thoughts and emotions.
In that space, that's where the freedom lies.
Exactly. It allows us to experience the full spectrum of our human experience without getting lost in it.
It's really about finding that balance, isn't it?
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. It's like,
Between being fully present with our experiences,
Yeah.
but not getting completely lost to them.
exactly. It's not about suppressing our emotion.
Right. We're not trying to become like emotionless robots.
Not at all. It's actually the opposite.
It's about embracing the full spectrum of our human experience
The joy, the sorrow, the anger, the love, it's all part of it.
and finding that freedom to experience it all without being a slave to our inner turmoil.
That's where the real magic happens.
So where do we even begin? What's like one small step we can take today to start cultivating this sense of surrender?
Well, I think a great starting point is simply noticing those moments when we're clinging.
When we feel that tightness in our chest, that resistance to what is.
Exactly. That's our signal to practice letting go.
So maybe it's as simple as taking a deep breath, acknowledging the feeling, and then choosing to release it.
It could be that simple, just creating that little bit of space.
And over time, that space will grow.
It's like a muscle that we can strengthen with practice.
You know what's interesting? Singer's teachings sometimes get misinterpreted as advocating for passivity.
Oh, yeah, I've heard that too. Like, we should just sit back and let life happen to us.
But that's not what he's saying at all, is it?
No, not at all. He's not suggesting that we shouldn't have goals or aspirations or take action.
But he encourages us to approach them from a different place.
With a sense of detachment from the outcome.
So it's about putting in the effort, taking action,
Yes.
but not getting so attached to the results that we create unnecessary stress and suffering.
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
about finding that sweet spot between effort and surrender.
That sounds like a much more balanced and sustainable way to live.
It is. And Singer believes that when we operate from this place of surrender, we free up an enormous amount of energy.
Energy that can then be directed towards those goals and aspirations.
Instead of fighting the universe, we align ourselves with its natural flow.
This has been such an eye-opening conversation.
It really has. Singer's teachings offer such a profound and empowering message.
It's a reminder that we have so much more control over our inner world than we realize.
And by letting go of what's holding us back,
We can unlock a level of peace, joy, and freedom that we might never have thought possible.
it's truly transformative.
So to our listeners, we leave you with this.
What if the key to a richer, more meaningful life isn't about adding more, but about letting go?
What would it look like for you to start embracing the power of surrender in your own life?
That's something to ponder.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of Michael Singer.
We encourage you to explore his work further and discover the transformative power of surrender for yourself.
Until next time, keep diving deep.